And you talked about the rigging and like the concept of how the government is rigged and elections are rigged. I wanted to ask you, how did we sort of get to this place? In a sense, what we've always had gerrymandering, but now it's if you look at the maps across the country, we seem to have worse gerrymandering than we've ever had. And there seems to be very little shame to the notion that elected officials are going to pick the people who vote for them instead of the other way around. And it does seem to drive a cynicism. We saw a large decrease in voters in Wisconsin. Lots of communities affected. There were some communities who voted at higher levels in previous elections and really dropped off. We don't know what that is, but it seems like voter ID had something to do with that. Obviously, gerrymandering is creating a level of cynicism. How did this happen that it's like so overt, and it takes something like this new organization to really fight it frontally?
Well, I think, to be very frank, that the Republican Party has realized that their governing philosophy is not a winning one, And so because they can't win the game, they've decided to change the rules. And that means that we're going to make it more difficult for people to vote, but at least those who would be inclined to vote in a democratic way for the Democratic Party. We're going to make it more difficult by making sure that you have an ID, a photo ID. There has always been in our system the notion that you have to prove who you are before you vote. But now they've come up with these more restrictive and prescriptive ways. I think it's interesting in Texas, if you have a University of Texas ID, that's not
state issued.
Right, that's not sufficient.
Because it's University of Texas.
Not sufficient. But if you have an ID that says you're licensed to carry a concealed weapon, that is good. So think about the impact of those kinds of rules. And the same thing with regard to redistricting. We see that we have demographic changes, the likes of which we have not seen before. And I think the Republican Party is concerned about their ability to maintain power. And so because they don't have a philosophy that is particularly attractive, they decided to come up with ways in which they can skew the game. We have, gerrymandering, I guess, has always been a part of our political process. But I think what we're seeing now is gerrymandering on steroids.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that we are in the process of trying to combat.